Hi everyone. This is Sukanya. I'm a research fellow working in Impact Project at NIMHANS. I have experience of working in family therapy for 3 years. So today what we are going to talk about is marital discord, family conflicts, and why we need family therapy. And most of the presentation will be focused on family assessment. So let us move forward with the presentation. Why, what is marital discord and why we need family therapy. So if we talk about the family therapy, the disagreement and lack of harmony between the married couple is the marital discord. It can happen between the couple as well as between all the family members also. So why people turn towards family therapy is to maintain a healthy and a functional family and to find solution of their problems. So when we talk about family conflicts, we also refer to the active opposition between the family members. It involves a lot of combination of problems. It can be different, which can be of different forms. It can be verbal in nature, it can be physical in nature, it can be sexual in nature, it can be financial problems or psychological issues. It is not always necessary that the problems are always existing between the couples. It can be with somebody else as well. The problems may exist between the parents and the children, or between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law and any other family members. So uh, once a family turns towards the counselors or they come for the family therapy, what is your role and how you need to see them is something which we will be talking today. So when we talk about the stages in family therapy, if a couple or if a family comes to you, what you need to do is that you need to follow certain steps. So what we do here is that we do intake screening, and then we do a family assessment. Based on the results of family assessment, we hypothesize the problems which they have, and depending upon the problem, we provide intervention, and then we terminate the session. So these four stages we involve the family in the family therapy. So we also need to remember that it is not that they are working for it. It is together we are working for solving the problems of the family. So let us proceed with the intake or the screening session. So when a family comes to you or a couple comes to you, you need to ask them about the socio-demographic details. That means where they are from originally, what is their age, what is their education, are they working or not, are they married or not, and if they have studied up to what standard or what degrees they have studied, and which place they belong to, because these are some details which gives you a lot of information and about the cultural pattern which they follow. And you also need to check about the referral details. Sometimes it may happen that you may find some clients who are referred from a psychiatric hospital or any other hospitals, and it may also happen that they have referred from the court. So that can be a very potentially medical legal case, so they have come for counseling from the referral. So you need to also take the details of that. So when a couple comes for counseling, you need to also note down the number of participants in the sessions. So sometimes it happens that for a couple counseling, the whole family members comes. So that time you need to decide that which whether the couple only have to be involved in the family therapy or the couple therapy session, or the whole family members, other family members are also involved, need to be involved or not. And we need to check that when they come, what are the problems they are telling to you. So according to them, what is the problem identified in the family. For example, if a couple comes, you need to check with both of them that what is according to them is the problem. So when they tell in front of the therapist that these are the problems, they may not have sometimes discussed in their family back at home that these are the problems which I'm facing. So this is also an opportunity for them to understand each other. Okay, this person is facing this kind of problem. So one video has also will also be attached in the presentation, if you can see in that particular case, Fignet, initially the therapist has asked what are the problems identified. So according to husband, the problems were different, and according to wife, the problems were different. So when they had to have two different problems, you also need to check that how to solve their problems. They need to come together as a solution, that this is something particularly which we really want to resolve it. So when the problems are told, this is also very important to check that what is your expectations out of family therapy. Sometimes they may have similar expectations, but sometimes they may have different expectations. So according to their expectations also becomes, you need to design the intervention, or you need to talk to them about it, and then we have to work together towards that particular expectations, and it can be decided as one of the goals of the family therapy for them. And initially, there is one more important thing which you need to focus on, is the informal contract with the family. For example, small things like who will attend the session, whether the husband and wife. As I already said, that sometimes it happens that all the other family members can also come. So you need to be very particular to decide that who will be attending the session according to the need of the family, as all the families are unique. And when the session may take place. In the video, if you can see, a lot of time what happened is that wife was suggesting the dates and husband was not interested to come. So we need to also come up with a consensus on when they will come for the family therapy session, whether it is weekly once, weekly twice, at what time they are coming, and the payment mode, that is also very important to decide. And what is your observation from the therapist side, that you are making a note of. For each session, you are particularly required to make observation notes just to understand the changes throughout the sessions. So when in the if you can see the video, in the initial session, the couples very very emotionally charged. They were fighting with each other the whole time, and at the end of the session there was some differences compared to the beginning of the session. So you need to understand that, to understand the progress of the whole therapy. If you particularly make note of observation from the first to the last session, you can see the changes in the patterns of communication and their interaction as well. So the second stage where you need to focus on is the family assessment. So here, particularly what we do is that we follow a systems theory approach. So in according to the system theory, the whole family is considered as a system, and it is considered as a set of units and elements which are together but are interdependent in nature. So, for example, our whole family, when we considered it as a system, we have a set of units, that is husband, wife, child, daughter. Children can be of son, daughter, grandparents. So when we have different sets of units, we also divide them into subsystems. For example, for very easy example, if I take it, is if you divide a classroom into different groups, how will you divide it? You can divide into males and females, or you can have particular age, but in family it doesn't happen that way. So we divide into groups based on the functionality of the family. So if you take from the functionality level, the family is divided into three subsystems. First is the couple subsystems according to their roles and responsibilities and their functionality. So what is couple subsystem is when husband and wife to come together as they have similar roles, they are called as couple subsystem. And when there is an entry of a child in the family, they become parents, their roles and responsibility gets changed, and then they are parents, parental subsystem. And there is a third thing called sibling subsystem. A lot of time it happens, if you look back at your own family, you can see that the things which you must be sharing with your siblings, you may not share with your father or mother or any other person. So there is secrecy existing between the siblings as well. So that's how it is divided into three subsystem. And it may also happen that when A husband and wife can be a very good and a loving couple, but they cannot be a good parents. It can happen vice versa also. They can be a very good parents, but they are not a good couple. So we need to work out and see that how the subsystem is functioning, whether it is functioning well as a couple or as a parents. This give you a lot of description about how they are, and it will help you out while um, doing the therapy and proceeding with it. You can get to know about the strengths and weakness of the family and the couple as well. So the next thing you need to do is that you need to check about the genogram as well. Once you know that the structure of the family, whether it is um, a joint family, whether it is a nuclear family, how many members of the family are staying, then you need to check about the genogram. As I said that in the initial setup, in the initial session, when you are taking the socio-demographic details, you can also uh, ask more details, and then you can particularly make the genogram to understand the patterns of interaction between the family members. So here, for example, if you can see the genogram, the square denotes the male figure in the family, and the circle denotes the female figure. And when it is joined by a line, it means that they are married. And in the middle, if you can see that double lines are there with a cross, it means they're divorced. So here, if you can see that the male husband who is 29 years aged and the wife is 23 years age, so we can always represent their marriage by writing a date and M above the line, which I have not written here, just to understand that when they got married. If you can see the wife's side of the family, she has two brothers, and they are 26 and 19. And similarly, if male's husband side of family, you can see that he has two younger siblings. One is a sister and one is a brother, and brother is divorced, and then their parents are still there. And the circle in the husband and wife, where 29 and 23 years age is shown, the present family is that is their living arrangement. So when you are circled it, it means that they are staying together. If there was any other family member staying together, we could have circled it together. So this is the way it is represented. You can add more details into it, which I have not added it here. For example, educational pattern and how often they visit together and their relationships as well. um, Here, for example, if you have to have a look into it, you can see that in this husband side of the family, there is a possibility of separation among his brother and his sister-in-law. That also gives you an extra information about the intimate relationship in the family. So that gives you a description about how the family works out. This is very important because you need to know that how their parents relationship was, from husband also, from wife also. So that, because most of the time they model these relationship, and then they get into uh, their marriage also with the same expectations. You can see the similar patterns in the family in the video also, where the husband was too much role modeling his father and repeatedly saying that my father was like this, and my mother never said anything. How can I give you a time? Why do I want to talk to you? You do not understand me. You need to understand me because I'm a working person. So a lot of time it happens that they role model their own parents. And in the family structure, once you understand the genogram, you need to look into the boundaries in the family. Boundaries can be of two different types. One is internal and external boundaries. Internal boundaries is when mm, it is inside the family, it is among the family members. When you're comparing this information with the outsiders, it becomes the external boundaries. For example, boundaries are of three types: clear and open boundaries, closed and rigid boundaries, and diffuse boundaries. It is the rules, regulations in the family which exist, and it is defined by the flow of information from outside and within the family. For example, here I'll tell about the internal boundaries. If if a spouse is not sharing everything with the parents. For example, the husband and wife relationships is there. They know how much to share and how much not to share. They share quite a lot of things, but not the intimate things which they discuss among themselves. Then it means that the flow of information from them and to the family members are clear and open. Family members know that how much to interfere, how much not to interfere, and they also know what to tell, what not to tell. But at the same time, if they do not share anything, parents don't know that where the son is working, where the daughter-in-law is working, and they do not know where they go, where they come. It means that there's a lot of closed and rigid boundaries. This particular person doesn't want to share any information with the family members. And if at the same time, if there is a lot of diffusion happening, if they are taking each other's decisions, for example, mother-in-law keeps on telling you do like this, you do like that, you go here, you don't go there, and keeps on interfering in the decision making process of the daughter-in-law, that means that they both have a very diffuse boundary. It can happen with the external family members also. If you can look back into your own families, you can see that there are some families where you may be talking to them and telling them many suggestions, and maybe you must be the one who must be telling them what to do, what not to do. That shows that there's a lot of diffusion between them. Somewhere we know that where we should talk, where we should not talk with the some families. That shows the very clear boundaries, that this particular person doesn't want to get disturbed, and we also know that okay, this particular person won't take your suggestions, and you are not no one to tell them what to do, what not to do. So according to these rules and boundaries only we decide a lot of things. And in all the families there is there is alignments which happens, the interaction patterns among the family members. So alliances are the positive affinity, and it is a very well known fact and a known worldwide rule also. I'll consider it as a rule only. Majority of the family, it happens that um, fathers are more close to daughter and mothers are more close to sons. So in this, when they are more close to each other, it doesn't create a problem in the family. If a father is close to daughter, it is not disturbing the family rules, regulation, or the routines, and now nobody is having any problem with it. That is called alliance. When a person is close to other person and interactive more than the third family member, it is called alliance until it is not creating any unnecessary issues. The next alignment is correlation. If suppose, for example, if mother and son together are standing against the father, and they are also creating problems for the father, and if two family members, father and the daughter, are against the mother, that is a negative alignment, that is called correlation. When two of the family members are against the third person, that is called correlation, which is not healthy in nature as compared to the alliance which is healthy in nature. The next thing in the alignment is the triangulation. When the husband and wife or two different people are not able to solve their problems and they include a third person to solve their problems in between them, it is called triangulation. So when the conflict between parents is solved by a third person called the son, the daughter, or any other family member, is a triangulation. Suppose for here example, if father asks, do you like me or mother? Then son is confused, and mother is saying, tell you are my son or his son. So this way he and mother and the father are including the son in this conflict, and they're creating a triangulation. So we need to, life cycle stages is a very important assessment which we do in the family assessment, to understand that where the problems started in the family. For example, there are high likely chances that a couple who came, they did not had problem initially, but they started having problem when their child had grown had reached the teenage. That means that you need to sort out only that problem, not before that. So they're stuck in that particular life cycle stage. Where in this a couple, in the case Vignet also, if you can see, they are in the second life cycle stages. So a miscarriage has happened, but they are stuck in the second life cycle stage. You need to do the assessment from the initial life cycle stage. You need to assess them. Married couple without children is the first life cycle stage. We need to assess what kind of family they come from, what kind of marriages it happened, whether it was an arranged marriage, whether it was a love marriage, whether they had any other issues in the family, if whether they had they went to a honeymoon or not. Because culturally speaking, if you see the Indian people, there is very less time where the couple get to spend together, and the courtship period for them is also very less. You need to also see about the courtship period, that whether before marriage they met or not, whether who called to whom, and marriage, whether it happened all of a sudden. Sometimes it may happen that they were just decided, and in a month's period of time they would have got married. Then it is very less courtship period, only a 1 month of courtship period, and they got married. So these can be one of the factors and one of the things which can decide how the marriage life is going to be. So um and also about the background about other family members, how their parents relationship was, from the spouse, from the husband side and the wife side as well. And then when the second life cycle stage is married couple with child 0 to 2.5 years. So once they get married, and after that, what is their plans, like whether it is, whether they are planning for pregnancy or not, whether it is unexpected things, which is unplanned things, or how, who is doing which roles, whether husband is somebody who is assessing, who is helping wife to deal with the problems or not. Because culturally a lot of differences happen in different family. If you see in India also, some part of India is where the wife, where husband goes to wife's family and stay with them. And in some parts of India it is like wife shift from her family and goes to the husband's family. And when they're conceiving or carrying the child, they go back to their own family and they stay there. So whether these kind of arrangement, living arrangement, has made any changes in them, a positive or a negative change. So you need to look into that also. So small details like, when she's carrying, whether the husband is taking her to hospital and taking the child's responsibility or not, or whether it is only the family who is doing all these sorts of thing. Then we may move on to the third stage, family uh, life cycle stage, where the child is 2.5 to 6 years. It is preschool age. So there is a lot of differences of and problems in the division of time mm, for the couple. So whether the roles from the couple subsystem and parental subsystem has been functioning well or not, you need to look into that. So when a couple become a parents, their role also changes, whether the wife is able to divide the time between the husband and the child or not. And since it's a preschool age, they also need to look into a lot of decisions. So when they move into the next stage, married couple with child 6 to 13 years, there is a lot of problems happen with, or a lot of things which surrounds around admission of the child to which schools. That is also one of the difficulties which the couple faces. Whether whether the husband is only looking after the gatekeeper role, that means that he's only looking into the financial roles, not taking of care of the child, and only the mother is the one who is taking care of the child and taking all the decision for the child. And it's not democratic in nature. They're not sitting together and deciding about the child's future. That can be also one of the concerns in this particular stage. And the next stage is when married couple with child 13 to 20 years, when the child has reached a teen age. In a lot of families, this is one of the stage which, when high likely the problems happen because of the teenage of the child. So a lot of time it happens that they either the child is involved in a romantic relationship, or the academic achievements decision regarding the academic achievements are concerned, whether in India specifically, they may have a lot of difficulty deciding that whether to take the science stream or the commerce or the arts. There's also one of the problems which can become a huge difficulty in the family. And the next is married couple launching young adults. So unlike the Western culture, in India is a collectivistic society, and we all stay in the family together. We do not go move out and stay separately. So a lot of time what happens is that even though you are 30, you need to you are not launched out, you are not moved away from the family emotionally also. You need to decide, everything is discussed with the father or the mother, and you're not going moving away from the family even if for a job. So that is one of the place where a lot of problem arises. You need to see, for example, if if a person, if an individual has reached 23 or 24 years when he's supposed to go for job, but he doesn't want to go for job because he cannot go away from the family, that is where they are stuck in that particular stage. Then it comes about the next stage, which is middle-aged couples. It is also called emptiness syndrome or retirement age. Here a lot of time there is a shift in the generational role of the couple. So and when one of the child gets married, they have the shift in the roles. Some of the couple retire in this particular stage or the next particular stage. So their role changes, and the expectations from each other as a couple also changes, and they are way back to again married couple without children. So they're again together instead of staying with the whole family. If yeah. And the next stage is aging family members. Most of the time when after retirement, if one of the spouse expires or dies, the other spouse has a lot of difficulty adjusting. So this is also one of the stage which we need to look on to. So most of the time when geriatric couple come, you cannot assess the whole life cycle stage from the beginning. You need to see which need to be assessed, because if they are from middle aged couple, you can go always backwards and see how they, what kind of troubles they are having, or what is their interaction pattern. And you can go backwards instead of coming from when they got married. And for if you can see in the case Vignet also, the interaction, uh, doing the assessment, it was very difficult for the therapist to do the assessment systematically from stage by stage. So we were switching over the stages and then discussing. So that also can be always done. Leadership pattern is also one of the things which need to be taken care of. So in as all the families are unique, so the power structure of the family also varies. So in some of the families, the leadership and the power is gender oriented and authority specific. For example, in majority of the families in India, you can see the father is the head of the family. So father is somebody who takes all the decision, and he is a leader of the family. So whether all the family accepts that he whatever he's taking decision or not. And sometimes it may happen that father is not taking, male figure is not taking any decision. It is the female who's taking decision, who's doing all the thing. But for the name's sake, this father is head of the family. That means we can say, label it as that father is the head of the family, nominal head of the family, and mother is the functional head of the family. But it is not always necessary that happens that way. It can happen that father is the nominal and the functional head of the family as well. And the same involves the decision making process also. When all the family members sit together and take a decision, it is called democratic decision making. At the same time, it happens that a single person takes a decision and it's just implemented. It's like a rule, that I give you a rule, you cannot change it. That is called autocratic decision making. And demo authoritarian is when the decision has been taken, but still all the family members has a say on it. They can tell that, yeah, this is correct, this is not, like that. And there is something called chaotic decision making also, when each family member take their own decisions. So decision making process also decides a lot about the family. Role structure, each family has different roles. Some families tell it openly, some don't tell it. So depending on that, we see that there is explicit roles and implement roles, implicit roles in the family. So certain things are, for example, I know that I have to go back, I have to go back to home at 7 o'clock in the night. So nobody tells that, but it's an untold thing. Similar way in the roles also, there is explicit and implement implicit roles. As a male person knows that he has to earn for the family and he has to go for the job, that's an untold thing. So that is, uh, this sometimes discussed, sometimes not discussed. Depending on this, we decided complementarity. Complementary things happen when two different people, when a husband is good at something and wife is not good at that, and husband does that, and wife compliment him by doing certain thing which husband is not capable of doing. For example, husband is very good in technical stuffs, so wife is not. So in his job, he in her job, he's working doing the technical things for her, but at the same time, wife is very good in the sketching things, then and husband can't do that. So that particular place, wife is helping him out, so they are complementing each other. They are two different people who have two different skills and they complement each other. It can be in the behaviors also, it is not only the skills. You can also think about that in the behaviors. Then role multiplicity and role strain. When I as a person have multiple roles in the family, it becomes a role multiplicity. For example, in a family, for example, if I am in a family and my husband is not well and he has a physical illness and a mental illness, so I am going for the job and I'm looking after family, so I have taken the husband's role also. So that is called role multiplicity. And there is something called role expectations. As a label name suggests, it is this as simple as the expectations from the family members. And role allocation, as I said that, in some of the families we allocate the roles that this you have to do, this you have to do, not to do. So it doesn't happens in all the family. It can be ambitious or diffused in nature. So if it is clear and defined, it's very easy, but if it is not, it becomes again a chaos in the family. And depending upon the roles also, we have they are labeled as providers or mediators. So most of the time father takes up the instrumental role, that is the provider role financially, and mother takes up the expressive role, that's mediator or conciliator role. And it can happen vice versa also. It's not necessary that always father has been to take the provider role. The most important thing is also the communication. So you need to, in the therapy also, when a couple comes to you or in a family, when you are doing an assessment, you need to be also know that what is the channels of communication, who speaks to whom, whether there is a direct communication or not, whether it's verbal in nature or non-verbal in nature, what kind of communication is happening in the family. If you see the case vignette also, the therapist was non-verbally stopping the client, the husband specifically, to stop interfering when the wife was talking. And we also need to see that whether there is an equality of participation among the family members, not only in the family when they have come for a session also. Sometimes what happen, husband wife may keep on telling the problems and husband is not at all talking. Even if you tell him to talk, he's very guarded in nature. That is also something which you need to look onto it. And whether there is a clarity of communication or not, what I intend to say, whether the person has said or not. And what about the noise level? If there is frequent fights happening, whether how is the noise level in the family, whether it is always fights happening or it is one particular day, and how. And then the most one more thing which is very important is that paradoxical and switchboard communication. A lot of time it happens that there's a paradoxical communication when they talk to each other. So if suppose example, um I'm telling my child, if you want to go out, you go. I don't mind it. But if father comes back, you need to respond to him and you are going to give an explanation. So indirectly, I as a mother is telling that you don't go out. I don't want you to go out. But verbally, I'm not telling that. So I'm telling opposite of what I want him to do. So that is called paradoxical communication. Then the switchboard communication. It happens in many of the families. Most of the families, what they do is that they do not they do not communicate anything directly to the father. It is always via the mother the things are communicated. That has to be avoided. So when you do a session, you need to check on who speaks to whom, whether it is clear or not, and based on that you need to give the communication skills training. That always when two people are talking, the third person is not supposed to get involved. Yeah. Then what kind of reinforcement exists in the family is also something you need to decide on, whether it's positive in nature, negative, or punishment. If for example, if you do something good, whether there is a reward for it. If you do not do, whether there is the reward has been taken off, or there is a punishment which has been given to any of the child in the family. And these reinforcement, whether it is verbal in nature, non-verbal in nature, or materialistic gifts. For example, most of the time when somebody scores good marks, the child scores good mark, the parents give them gifts as a reinforcement. So, or they say shabash. So it's a different materialistic and verbal encouragement which they give. That's called reinforcement. And the next is the cohesion. This is the we feeling in the family. It is about the family commitment and intimacy when they are interdependent on each other. So you can see the continuum here, where starts from enmeshed relationship to disengagement, and in between falls a healthy connectedness and healthy separatedness. So when a person is boundaries are very diffused and they are getting into each other's lives too much and taking decisions for each other, this is called enmeshed relationship, where one person doesn't have a control of decision making of my own thing. But when if they know that where to interfere, where not to interfere, where there's an open and clear boundaries, it ends up in healthy connectedness. And they know that if a person is had doesn't want to get involved in the family matters, he's outside, then they had a clear boundary of that and they call it as a healthy separatedness. But at the same time, if there is a boundaries which is very rigid and closed in nature, I as a person do not get along with my family. I'm staying somewhere else. My family doesn't know that where I'm staying, and I'm not getting involved in any of the decision making process. That is called disengagement. It's not very necessary that I stay outside of the family. I can stay with the family, but I can still be disengaged. That I just go in and out of the family. They don't know anything. I don't get involved in any of the processes, family rituals, or any other decision making process. Then it is disengagement. So it is most of the time parallel with the boundaries which we have discussed in the initial part. And you need to also see the adaptive patterns in the family, how when a problem occurs, what how the family react to it, whether they have a conflict resolution, whether how is their problem solving ability, what is their coping strategies, how much they are flexible, whether they're rigid, structured, chaotic or not. That you need to decide. If a problem happens, whether it's sit together and problem solve the problem, whether it's structured in nature or not, and whether they are able to do or they are going to take any other help. If they are taking help, what is the social support they are having? And in this social support, when they are taking help, it is primary, secondary, and tertiary in nature. One is the primary social support, where they contact the immediate family member. As a husband and wife, when they are having a problem, they are contacting their where they are contacting their parents, that is immediate family members. As secondary support is relatives, friends, and neighbors. When you are going to approach your relatives, friends, and neighbors for some help seeking behavior, it is the secondary social support. And at the same time, when a family is having a problem, when a family is having a problem, if they are coming to institutions, they are going coming to you for counseling, it is the tertiary social support which they are taking. And most of the time there will be availability of the social support, but utilization will be very less. That also we need to infer for from there. So here I have not mentioned all the intervention which we give. It is only based on the video which will be shared along with this. So in, if you see the case Vigna, the intervention which we have approached is, because every family is unique, and you need to decide all the intervention work together based on the hypothesis which you are framing after doing the family assessment. So here the client center activities has been discussed, which is problem solving, and if a problem comes, what to be done, communication skills training. And we had also negotiated for the solution. There were list of activities which were discussed, and we also discussed about reliving the honeymoon period, because before the miscarriage happened for the client, they had really a good time. They spent a lot of good time with each other. So that was one positive, appreciative inquiry was done by the therapist, so that they can have the activities which was before also. And it was repeatedly told in the session that they can say thank you, or appreciate each other about the activities, or a good memories to each other, that you were good in this particular thing, I like this time spending with you. It may sounds very mechanical in nature initially, but over the period of time it becomes a practice. And if you can also see that there was an alliance towards wife from the therapist, maybe because of the same gender, so which we need to be very careful of. If a family comes to you for the counseling, you need to be neutral. There are high likely chances that husband may misinterpret that the therapist is very close to wife and only listening to wife. And if you pay a lot of attention, it is also said that activities was focused on wife's priorities, most of the activities. That also creates a lot of bias from the husband's side. And then there was a confrontation to husband that it is not a magic. Family counseling is not a magic, you are not going to get results as soon as possible. That kind of sentences we are not supposed to speak. So there are certain things we are not to do and not to do. And yeah, so there was also a time where husband says that individual therapies are required. So we cannot just give away the things that, yeah, you can go for individual therapies and I can talk about it if you need individual therapy. So based on the need of the client, and based on the referral and your own um, observation, we need to decide that whether the individual therapy is required or not. Because a lot of time it happens that it happened in the last, in the case Vignet also, that husband was keep on asking about the individual session for the wife, as if wife is having the problem. So if we offer individual therapy for them, there are high likely chances that husband may label wife, oh, you're going for this therapy also, that then it is a problem for you, not for me. So, and if the clients are asking for two specific time or individual times, we need to divide the time. For example, the session is for 1 hour, means you need to give 15 minutes to wife, 15 minutes to husband, and then you can have a conjoined session with them. So specifically in this particular case Vignet, we have used techniques called therapeutic alliance, where therapist was trying to have an alliance with both of them. But it was if it is noticed properly, observed properly, the alliance was more towards a wife. And we had also used circular questions. For example, problem definitional questions. Circular questions are when you're trying to assess the interaction, because it's a belief that circular question, that one incident doesn't happen alone. It's circular in nature, it's not linear, there's no cause and effect relationship. If I am submissive in nature, it means my husband has to be dominant in nature. So it's a circle, it's not that big. We cannot reason out that this is because of this. So we have asked about the problem definitional questions, where what is the problem we asked, and sequence of interaction was asked, that, oh, what happened about after this, then what, who spoke to whom, what your husband did, what your wife did, then did any of the other family members interacted in that, no. like those kinds of questioning. And then comparison classification, where comparison was made before the miscarriage and now, okay, last time how you spoke, you were good, right? No, this time, but his behaviors has changed, how it has changed. So there was a comparison question. And then we also did a lot of negotiation for the timing of the therapy and the activities. And one, the last thing which we did was communication skills training, in between, where the therapist have to guide the spouse that this is the way you should speak. So sometimes you can, in the therapy session also, you can ask the spouses or the clients that, okay, if not this way, then how you could have spoken, that so that the problems doesn't arise. So these kind of activities can always be done in the sessions. Yeah, so these are certain things. There are certain points which we also need to remember, is that whenever they are talking in the session, you allow always these family members to interact with each other. In the video also, if you can see that in between, therapist has taken a back seat and we are allowing them to fight, just to see the interaction pattern between both of them. And then we should not be taking sides, we should maintain neutrality and tracking the emotional changes in each session. If you can see that from first to the end of this session, there were a lot of changes. Allow interruption and arguments, and we need to only stop where it is required. If you allow interruption and arguments, you will understand that where exactly the husband or the wife is interrupting in between. So what is the trigger for the problems? And don't encourage individual sessions unless it is required. As I already said, we are not supposed to encourage the individual sessions at all. Yeah, so I think I'll end my presentation with this. Yeah, thank you.